Hey guys, Kristen Metter here with TravelingCPAChick.com, where I'm on a mission to help you travel more without sacrificing the financial security that you crave. So today I'm going to be teaching you all about my 5-step quarterly goal setting process to help me work towards and achieve my life vision and dreams. And as high level as that sounds, the process is actually very simple, and I'm going to break it down for you in 5 easy to follow steps. So let's get started. So just to give you a bit of background about my quarterly goal setting process, this is not something that I uniquely created. I have grabbed bits and pieces from other experts and advisors and mentors in my life and kind of mashed it all together to create the process that works best for me. So keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is quarterly. So what that means is once every 3 months you're doing this. And the dates that I use are the calendar quarters. So January 1st, April 1st, July 1st, and October 1st. And I find that to be a really great frequency to monitor my progress towards my previous goals and then to reevaluate my current goals based upon all of the facts and circumstances happening in my life at the moment. So to get started with this process, you're going to want to set aside about 5 hours. So you'll want to do it over the course of 2 days. Day 1 is going to be more of your brainstorming type of exercises. And then day 2 will be more of your action-oriented types of exercises. And the reason why I've split it up into 2 days is because the same part of your brain that's really good at brainstorming is not good at going forward and making tasks and taking action on those tasks. So day 1 is the heavy lift where I do all my brainstorming, and then day 2 I'm creating the tasks and scheduling them. So on day 1 I would go ahead and set aside 4 hours, and then on day 2 I would set aside 1 to 2 hours, and that's how I like to do it. So let's dive in. Here are the 5 steps. So step 1 is I do an exercise that is called the Roses and Thorns exercise. So again, not unique to me. I actually learned this from Jason and Travis over at Location Indie, which is a digital nomad and location independent community that I'm a part of. And their community does this monthly. I do this quarterly. So what I do is I make 2 lists. One I title Roses, and the other I title Thorns. And then I put on some classical music or whatever music helps your brain get going, and I set a timer. So I give myself 15 minutes to work on each list. The roses are everything good and positive that I've accomplished or that's happened within the previous quarter. So think back on the previous 3 months. And just brain dump. It doesn't have to be formal or perfect. Just dump it all out there. And I think you're going to be so surprised about how many good things you have to celebrate. Normally my roses list is way longer than my thorns list. And then the thorns list are the things that happened that weren't so positive. So not necessarily bad, but things that you think you could have improved upon, or ways in which you could have shown up a little bit better in your life. So a lot of mine are typically things that are personal in nature, like, I could have eaten a bit healthier, or maybe I could have reached out to friends more often just to catch up with them and have conversations, XYZ. So it doesn't have to be anything formal. Don't spend too much time racking your brain. But essentially the purpose of this exercise is to get it all out there to help you realize, number 1, how many wins you really had. And number 2, what things next quarter should you focus your goals on based on your thorns? So where are some areas for improvement, and what trends are you seeing? What keeps coming up for you? So this exercise in total will take you about 30 minutes. And once you're done with this, we'll move on to step 2. So step 2 is creating or revisiting your life vision. Now, this can be a bit daunting, but I don't want you to overthink it. Again, a lot like step 1, this is kind of just a brain dump. So how I like to create my life's vision is I like to think about it in two buckets. I like to write what my life's vision is 2 years from now, which is in the more immediate future. And then I also like to think about it 10 years from now, where I can just throw out any of my dreams and be a little bit more crazy and flexible with it. So again, don't overthink it. Just really start to think about, in 2 years, what would I like to be? What would I like to do on a daily basis? What would I like to look like? What would I like to have accomplished? And again, like go big. It doesn't need to be, what's realistic. It needs to be what's your vision or your dream. Again, in 10 years from now, think about me when I'm 30 right now. So me when I'm 40, what do I want my life to look like? So essentially just create those two lists and start just dumping all of your ideas on them. And you can essentially start it with, brainstorming everything that you think of, and then you can kind of curate it a bit more after that. But that's a really great thing to have in place. And then if you already have a life vision written down and formalized, you'll go ahead and revisit it at this point in the process. So you'll look at your previous life's vision and figure out, is this still true? Do I still want these things out of life? Is there anything I need to cut or I need to add from this vision? And also, it's totally okay to do that. So things should change as you grow as a person. One other thing I forgot to mention is I like to do all of this in one notebook every quarter. So it's really easy for me to go in and look back on what happened last quarter because it's all in this one notebook. So this is my quarterly planning notebook. I recommend you have one dedicated notebook where you do the same. So yeah, that's the life vision exercise. One other thing you can think about doing if you're not super clear on your life vision is start by asking yourself the question, what does a dream day in the life look like for me? And be as specific as possible. I wake up at 8 a.m. I walk into my kitchen and make an espresso. I take my espresso out on my patio overlooking the city square and drink it for 10 minutes. I then go get a book and start reading and read about 10 pages of it, or whatever you want that to be, but be as specific as possible. And that can help you curate your life's vision from what comes up in that dream day exercise. So those are just some tips, and that was step number 2. So step 3 of this process is to revisit and analyze your previous quarter's goals and whether or not you achieved those. The reason why this is so important to do is because it'll give you a lot of clarity on which of those goals need to stay on your list and you need to continue to work towards, and which others aren't so relevant anymore. So what I do is I grab my goal planning notebook and I flip back to the previous quarter and I essentially journal about each of my goals. So my first question is, did you accomplish this goal or not? And then my second question is, if not, why? And often what you're going to find is that maybe the goal was no longer relevant, or maybe you accomplished the piece of it that was relevant and the rest wasn't. Or maybe it's something you still want to accomplish, so it needs to stay on your goals list for this upcoming quarter. So that's a really helpful exercise to do. I find that it doesn't discourage me because I've already sat down and done step 1, which was the roses and thorns exercise, where I'm really encouraged by all of the progress and wins I had over the previous 3 months. So that's something really good to take the time to do. This is going to be done on day 1, your brainstorming day, and it's going to take probably about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how in-depth you go with your journaling. So that was step number 3. Step number 4, we're probably going to spend the most time talking about this because this step is where you formalize 4 to 5 written quarterly goals using the SMARTER framework. And what the SMARTER framework is, it was developed by Michael Hyatt, who is an expert in productivity and time management. And so each letter of SMARTER stands for a different requirement. So the S is specific, measurable, action-oriented, risky, time-keyed, exciting, and relevant. I want to talk a little bit about each. So specific, that's going to be something that's not too broad. You know exactly what you need to accomplish and you know when you've accomplished it. Measurable is, again, you can measure whether or not you accomplished it. Action oriented is, it's not just, I want to be a better leader. That's not action oriented. Action oriented is, I want to complete Michael Hyatt's leadership course or something like that, where there's a specific action you can associate with that goal. Risky means that it makes you a little nervous when you think about it, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's not just a goal that's a given because that's something you always do every quarter. It's something that's a little bit risky. Time keyed means that you have some sort of deadline associated with it or due date, or maybe it's a habit that you have to accomplish 3 times a week. That is time keyed. Exciting is, again, it makes you nervous, but it also makes you excited. If you were to accomplish it, it would be a big accomplishment. It would be exciting and something to celebrate, not just something that you do anyway. And then relevant is that it gets you closer to your life's vision. It's not just something on the list just because. It actually moves the needle forward for you. So using the SMARTER framework, you're going to write down your 4 to 5 goals as sentences and formalize them in that way. So go ahead and use a pencil if you need to so you can make changes and erase things, but craft your 4 to 5 goals. They should be both personal and professional in nature, so you'll want some of each. And to share with you a couple of examples, one of mine for Q4 is to book accommodations and plane tickets for a January and February Europe trip by December 31st. To me, this feels really risky but exciting because I am going to be traveling abroad during tax season, but some of my other goals are going to give me the work-life balance to be able to do that. It also is time keyed, which is very important, and measurable. Either I've done it or I haven't. And then another one for me is to post a new video on YouTube 2 times per month. So this is time keyed because it's a frequency thing. So I can look back and say, did I do it or did I not? Did I post those 2 times per month or 6 times in the quarter, or did I not do it? So those are a couple of examples of my goals. So make sure to go ahead and craft your goals if you haven't already. And this is where all of the magic happens. Again, this is going to be still on day 1 of your planning process. So it's probably going to take you about an hour or so to complete these, and then you're done with day 1 and you'll rest up, and then you'll come back on day 2 and do step 5, which I'll explain to you now. Step 5 is to take your 4 to 5 SMARTER goals and create your specific action items and tasks. So what I like to do at this point is to take my goal setting notebook and flip to a new page and write each of my goals as the header of each of 4 or 5 pages. And then from there, I essentially brain dump all of the tasks I think I'll need to accomplish to get this goal into place. So one of my examples, which is to book and plan my accommodations, one of my tasks is to complete my trip budget. So use my budgeting template and fill that out to know what my budget is for my trip. Another task may be to open up a new travel hacking credit card so I can travel hack my flight. And just a plug, I'm going to link to my video here on travel hacking for beginners so you can learn a little bit more about what that means. So you're going to go ahead and do that for each of your goals, and from there, once you have your tasks, you're going to actually schedule them on your calendar. So I use a task management system called Teamwork Projects, and I essentially will add all of these tasks to Teamwork with a due date. And obviously the due date doesn't need to be the day that the goal is due. It needs to be before that so you can continue to make weekly progress on your goals. And if you're new to task management and you don't yet have a task management system in place, I would recommend as a starter looking into Asana. It's pretty basic, but the free version should give you everything you need to get started. People also love ClickUp. I haven't tried it yet. It's a little bit more robust than Asana, but that may be something to look into also. So go ahead and schedule your tasks to make sure that you're going to be making weekly progress towards your goals and you're holding yourself accountable, because that task is going to pop up as due. So you have to either complete it or you have to specifically have that reminder in front of you that you didn't complete it. So that's a really great thing to do. Again, this is going to be on day 2 of your task planning process. So the next day after you set your goals, your goal planning process. So that next day after you've done all those brainstorming exercises, steps 1 through 4, you're going to come back the next day and complete step 5, which should take you about an hour or 2 to do. So that is my goal setting process that I do every quarter to ensure that I'm making progress towards my dreams and life vision. I hope that you've learned something today and you can implement some of these steps into your own goal setting process and continue to work towards your dreams. That's what we're all about here at Traveling CPA Chick. So a couple of housekeeping announcements. Number 1, make sure to like and subscribe so you get future video updates. I've got some really cool stuff coming up soon. And then number 2 is go ahead and go to travelingcpachick.com, scroll down to the bottom where you can download a freebie, which is our travel as a tax write-off cheat sheet and mini webinar. So download that, which will give you the tactics that I use to write off my travel and sometimes save about 20 to 30% because of using the travel as a tax write-off. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the next video, and thanks so much for tuning in today.